Hi, everyone. It's Daryl Lindenbach here again. Welcome to Music Makes Everything Better, Episode 3. Thank you for joining us on our YouTube channel or on SoundCloud now for the time being until we migrate ourselves to where we need to be in the great podcast world. So this is our third podcast. This is a weekly music and play podcast where we dive into the world of music and arts education. It's for students, it's for teachers, it's for parents, and hopefully at the end of it, it helps you make a more well-informed decision about music. How to learn it, how to play it, where to play it, should you play it? The answer is yes. And we will cover that.
Even if it's just on your
phone,
yeah,
even if this is the only way you're qualified to play music.
I almost said iPod and I stopped myself.
There you go.
That
What's an
dates
iPod?
me.
All those parents who
What
have
do
an
we do
iPod
it
out
now?
there and are listening to us on their iPod, congratulations. This week joining us, Colleen Lindenbach, founder and co-owner of Music and Play, and Harold Squire, one of our program coordinators and admin. So welcome back. You keep coming back because we schedule it and
I had the choice.
and you come back. So this week is all about group music, group lessons. So our last podcast, we kind of, we batted them both back and forth, and I'm sure some people that listen to this think that we have a great dislike for private music. No. We don't. But we're going to talk about private music next week. This week, we're going to talk about groups. So why take group music? Why is group music a good thing?
It's a safe place to start.
Safe place to start.
It's not one-on-one, so it's not that scary kind of what's the teacher going to make me do. It also means you can start younger.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, private lessons we recommend 6 years old, sometimes 5-year-old. 4-year-old is touch and go. Before that, it's really, if you want your child to hate music, it's a great way to do it.
Oh, yeah.
But kids are not meant to sit still and sit down. I mean, any child, adults are not meant to sit still all the time. It just doesn't work. So when you're in a one-on-one situation, the default generally is sit and listen while I impart all my wisdom to you.
Right.
That's not what group is, which is why you can start group younger. It's more enjoyable. I mean, you've got peers there who know as little as you do.
That's the big thing for me.
Yeah.
Is the peer element of it. Because
Okay.
it's not just the teacher saying you need to do this, this, and this so that you can get to this result, or not even mentioning that sometimes, just saying do this. Now you have your friends that are also doing the same thing, and it becomes more fun. It becomes something that you can do together. It's a bonding thing. It's a
Right.
right.
But starting younger it's also different, right? If you're going into you're taking a private lesson, it's probably for some much more obviously goal driven and oriented than perhaps a group class maybe.
Possibly so, or it's just what you know of, and you don't think of it. I mean, especially adults, you don't tend to think, oh, I'm going to study an instrument. I'm going to find a group class. Well, group ukulele, the adult class seems to be having a great time.
It's awesome.
It's just not something that you think of.
Mm-hmm.
Music education has come to kind of mean one-on-one. And coming out of the school system, doing 20 years there, that is not the way music education is taught.
No.
It's not. If you look at all of the CODA, if you look at all the history stuff, groups work because you can learn more together. Because you learn from each other. It's not just learning from the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And you can start younger, yes. I mean, we have groups that have 6-month-old babies in them. And I know some people are like, why would you put your 6-month-old in?
Why wouldn't you put your 6-month-old in?
Yeah, and I mean, then you can start talking about what's going on.
Take your 6-month-old out, you put your 6-month-old in, and you shake them all about.
No shaking.
No shaking. There were no children harmed in the making of this podcast. We're all good. And so we talk a lot. I talk a lot about sport being this, and all sport is taught in a group. Nobody chooses to learn soccer and they go to their coach's backyard and learn soccer for 10 months in the year and they play 2 games. That is
Wait,
that is
that's been COVID the last.
well. That's been okay. That's
Yeah.
that
that's a
explains why
different
it's not going well.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But it isn't
Yeah.
the way that sport is done. Sport understands that the whole friend thing, the whole
Yeah.
peer network, it's more fun, but in a lot of those settings you also need the team. It is a team sport.
Yeah.
So why take music, in a group class is not necessarily a team sport. You're talking about babies and that they don't have any idea.
No, that's true.
They don't know
And
what's going on.
I'd
but-
say you need to make a slight differentiation between your really beginner,
Okay.
the 3 and under crowd,
Okay.
as opposed to the slightly older groups.
Okay.
Simply because, especially in those very first years, you're talking about non-sequential learning.
Okay.
You're talking about the mother tongue approach. The kids are learning by experiencing it the same way they learn language. I mean, babies are born with the ability to speak any language. They can't speak any language. They learn what not to say and sound. I mean, sounds, they basically, they don't ever hear the sounds, and so they don't reproduce them. So it's weird when you think about it. Babies actually are process. Learning a language for a young child is the process of forgetting what they could be able of.
I've never thought of it that way, but that's
It
that's
is.
exactly what that is.
Yeah.
Because you have like bilingual parents,
Yeah.
or parents that speak 2 different languages, and you communicate both of those to the baby. They grow up knowing both, and very quickly being able to recognize that they're 2 different ones. Like, yeah,
And replicating the sound.
yeah,
No,
and they
when
learn
you-
it just as easy as one.
Yes.
So it's not. It doesn't take them twice as long to learn that, and it's not because they're learning twice as much. It's they're forgetting basically about the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really
it's,
cool.
It's just a different thought process of it.
Yeah.
And that to me helps explain why you would want to put your little one in. Because you're giving them the ability to start replicating the sounds and frankly making the neurosynapses, because we're talking about neuroplasticity, we're talking about brain development. Put your baby in music, it develops their brain. And that's what makes all the difference. Now that's slightly different when you get older. Once they're the ability to begin to learn sequentially, and just to do a quick explanation in case you're like, what do you mean sequential, non-sequential?
For all those educated learners out there, here comes the explanation you've been looking for, in case you've been missing it.
So sequential means you're learning on something, you're building on.
Yeah.
And that's the way the school system works. That's the way most lessons work. I learned this, and because I know this, I can learn this, and now I can learn this, and now I can learn this. It's a sequential pattern. Non-sequential means you're not building per se. It's not this planned up the ladder. This is the stuff. And so each term, I'm doing the same stuff. It's not that I'm growing on it. Now that doesn't mean they're not learning more, because they are. Because
Absolutely.
as they gain it, they're going to gain more and more. But the lessons aren't organized in a sequential manner.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a huge difference, and that's because of the way the children learn at that age.
Yeah.
Non-sequential learning for adults is possible. I mean, immersing yourself in another culture to learn the language is possible. Also probably good, but we tend, because we're much more linear thinking as we get older, to want to build that sequential. If you're taking Rosetta Stone lessons, you're building on it each time. So
Yeah.
there's your basic difference.
So we talk a lot about the younger lessons here. We've Music and Play has kind of pioneered that, has gone through. We use one of the best curriculums around. Basically for parents out there listening, and as we've talked about, you can go to almost any organization, whether they teach sports or arts or whatever, they're all going to have a program that's going to look kind of like an ECE program. It's going to be 30 to 45 minutes. It's going to be parented. There's going to be some singing. There's going to be some movement. There's going to be some instrument play. So they all kind of look alike. So why do you want to discern? Why should you care what that product is?
That's where the teacher in me comes in, because there is a huge difference between programs.
Well, yeah, but it's way closer to drive to Mary's down the block.
And that is something you can choose to make your decision based on. I say you need to decide what you're looking for. If you're actually looking for just a class where your kids can hang out and run around, whatever. You know,
doesn't
that's-
matter what you choose at that point.
No, you're playing, it's socialization.
Yeah.
Okay? If you're looking for a class where there actually are, even though it's non-sequential, where there actually are learning objectives, and that the music is actually written specifically to reach those music objectives. It's not just radio play stuff that's all in the wrong key and the kids can't sing because the range is too big, the parents can't sing, and it's all the same. You want something that is expanding. If you only listen to jazz at home, well, you want something that's going to introduce them to all kinds of other music as well.
Yeah.
If you're only listening and singing little kid songs, for instance, little kid songs can be not little kiddish.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Challenging.
I mean, they can be. The program we use, which is from the music class over Atlanta, it's called Music Pups and Music Cats. It uses music from all over the world. It uses 5/4, 11/16. It's in Mixolydian. It's in major minor. And to a non-musician, none of that stuff means a thing. But I tell you, the first time you see a child dance in 5/4, bum 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 bum, you just want.
It's amazing.
I just think they're unstable and you're going to fall over.
But so much of Western music is this boring 4/4, and if you're lucky, 3/4, and once in a while actually 6/8. But there's so much other out there, and when you're just restricting it to this is fun music. Oh, they hear this on the radio, so it's fun. I just find it sad.
It's still good. It's still valid, but
nothing wrong
there's
with it.
opportunities.
But there's
Yeah.
so much more that
Yeah.
it could be giving.
To go back to the language analogy, if you are only exposing your child to one style of music, you
Yeah.
are going to you're not going to learn the other styles of music.
You're limiting the language.
That
limit, yeah.
appreciation goes away for some element of it. So to answer your question, like you could go to anybody, absolutely. And if you're only looking for that one specific thing, that's fine. But our program is specifically designed to provide a much wider base of understanding. Like you said, there's compound meters. And in North America, that sounds weird. And a lot of the parents that come into my classes go, this is really hard. 7 is really weird. Like, why can't we just do it in 8? But if you go elsewhere in the world, kids sing in 7 and 8 and 5 and 10 and 11. Like, you go to
We're
Africa.
the ones limiting it.
Yeah, we're the ones that are limiting it. Yeah, you go someplace like Africa, you've got polyrhythmic drums going on, and you start doing that as soon as you're bored.
Yeah.
Like, it's not difficult, but it seems difficult to us because we have allowed those other
Exactly.
weird
And
pieces of music.
We want our children to be able to. I mean, I can't think of a parent who doesn't want their children to have more
Right.
than they did.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a materialistic way.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But just that the ability to do more, to do.
So assuming that most parents don't know,
And
let's start there.
yeah.
And most have no idea.
Yeah,
You know,
and
they've
that's
opened
okay.
they've opened up. I was gonna say the phone book. Evidently, I got old. If anybody has a phone book beside their iPod, congratulations. No, they're going to see what's close, what's cheap. What are 2 or 3 questions that a parent looking for a program like this for young kids, 0 to 4 years? What should they be asking?
The teacher training. Because that makes all the difference. You don't have to have a teacher who's got their education degree. It's great if they do. But is there specific training that was given in order for them to be able to become part or to provide this program?
Yeah.
Any quality program is going to say, we need you to go through this training to learn and to understand why our program is the way it is and why we feel that this is the best way to do it. And that's what the music class program does.
Yeah.
It's like there's the instructions. I mean, it's great because it's all video based now, and you have to mentor as well, so that you get those opportunities. That's to me one of the biggest things.
Okay.
And then the types of music, what styles of music do you use? You know, is there movement included? Does my child have to sit still the whole time in class? And I've had this question from parents who've gone to classes where their kid has gotten yelled at for moving. But that's how you learn music.
Yeah.
I mean, in a safe manner, obviously. We always say that. When we're using our sticks for keeping a beat, we're not allowed to run around with the sticks or hit mom or dad and with a granite with the stick. I mean, there's a safety component. But movement is how you learn.
Yeah, well, it certainly reinforces, and a lot of, try to learn dance without the music. It's strictly movement. There's a way to... Okay, what else? What's the top thing you hear from parents who come into the young classes who just go, I had no idea?
One thing that sticks out to me is a lot of them go, your course is so expensive. And there's two reasons for that. One, we don't hide any fees. Everything is out in the open. But two, all of the music is performed by real musicians.
Yes.
And that's a huge thing for me because...
as a musician, I want to be...
Exactly.
So you're paying. You're basically, the bottom line of this is you're licensing, you're paying royalties for it.
And as a result, the quality level is by and far superior to anything else that I have come across in the industry. It's not one dude sitting at a synthesizer and making something that sort of sounds like music. It's actual authentic musicians from Greece performing a Greek piece of music. It's actual opera singers performing operatic arias. Like, it's actual musicians, and you hear that. The quality is really there. And to follow up with that, all of the parents that I've talked to that have come into the program and have experienced that enjoy that so much. Because so many of these other young children programs, it's you're singing nursery rhymes again and again and
you don't
again.
know
And
you don't know what you don't have because you've never seen it.
Exactly. And the parents are constantly like, I'm tired of listening to this stuff. I have never had a parent in my experience say, I don't like this music. I've actually had more parents come to me and be like, can I get like a longer recording of this song? I love it. Like, I like it more than my kid does.
And that's a sign of quality music.
It is, yeah.
Is it something that, also a sign of an earworm, but we're not going to get into that. It is. It's the ability, to put that music on when the kids are crying and they recognize it. Because repetition is so important with the little guys. You want them to listen and listen and listen to it. And if you're going to do that, you need to have something that you can stand listening to.
Yeah.
I know. Baby Shark?
Oh, great. Thank you.
Not the best...
Earworms.
There you go. The shark needs to eat that worm, and it'll be.
Yeah.
So there's well, and you mentioned one guy and a synth, composing music. I think when you look at a lot of the programs out there, that's an upgrade from most of what's being done because most of it is pulling whatever out of a catalog, whatever nursery rhymes, whatever. Here it is. One guy creating original music on a synth is probably an upgrade. From most of what's going on out there because it's actually original music.
Right.
Now, is it good? Is it designed? Is it created from the point of view of understanding a young learner, and how they work, all of that stuff, So that's where some of the programming and music and play makes sense and has stood the test of time. If we jump to the other end, so that's young people starting. If we look at the adult group ukulele class mentioned earlier, why get into that? So that's a whole other end. Early learner, perhaps first learner, and so why does that work? Why is that a good?
There's a bit of crossover. All of the students that were in the class this term were first-time ukulele players as well, just starting in their adult life as opposed to as a child.
But we have to teach them not to hit each other with sticks too. Is that
not
like?
So
is it
much.
the same?
It's
problem?
more just a suggestion.
Okay.
At that point.
Okay.
But the difference for me going into a group lesson for kids is I do have those goals. I do have this kind of idea, but that's all stuff that I've come up with. I've built the lesson plans up, and I've gone and I've thought, okay, I want to get them to this point so that at the end of the year we can do a little concert and play lava or whatever. With the adult class, that's
That would be
I let them-
ukulele.
Ukulele, yes.
We don't have
Ukulele.
the 0 to 4-year-olds playing loud.
Yes,
Yeah.
ukulele. In the adult ukulele class, I let them give me suggestions a lot more. So you've obviously wanted to pick this instrument up for a reason. You've already gone through some of these checks in your mind. Like with a kid, it might just be, oh, Oliver's in the class, I might as well join because he's my friend. With an adult, it tends to be a lot more, I've always wanted to play this instrument, or I think this instrument's cool, or I want to add it to my repertoire, or whatever. And so they have their own kind of goals in mind. And so I can tweak the class a little bit more to be goal oriented that way. And then the other thing too is expectations. With kids, they've got a routine, they've got school, they don't have a job, they're not looking out for family. They have a little bit more time in their schedule. And so my expectation as a teacher is you can likely get 20 minutes a day in and not throw your schedule completely off.
Right.
But with an adult, that's not always the case. And so the expectation with class is, did you get a chance to practice this week? No, not a problem. We're here to mostly just have fun in a way that still teaches you how to work the instrument. And then the other thing that really stands out for me is group classes as an adult tend to be way more fun, because as adults we have this understanding of music already. Even if we haven't taken lessons or anything, we've heard music, we understand how music should sound. And so you sit down with an instrument on our iPods. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So you sit down with a ukulele and you go, I want to make this sound, but I can't. And it's really frustrating. It's really, really, really frustrating. And so to sit down in a classroom with another person who's the same age as you, who also understands music, and in my class case, we have a professional piano player, a parent who's got kids here, and then another person who's never played any musical instrument save for violin when she was in like high school. They're all kind of like, what? But then they all get that same exact thing. They're working together, and when they reach an accomplishment, when they reach a goal, all of a sudden it becomes so much more special. It's not just your teacher going, yeah, you did it. It's all of your colleagues and everyone going, look guys, we made something out of this. Like we went through the whole term and just like whatever it is, Monday is the day that our class on, so 2 days ago, we played through a whole song all together with different strumming patterns, different chords, and we made a piece of music. And that was something that they took home and were super proud of. So it's not just kids that get that joy out of working with their friends.
A lot of group stuff ends up being called a band.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, to me that's my familiarity with group music is a band.
Yeah.
You get together and you play music together.
Yeah.
So if we kind of now go back between the two. So we've grown up, we got 0 to 4. We ended up there and the kind of, 4 to whatever group music. We started we changed group music programs in Music and Play a few years ago. Part of the struggle in that can be, you touched on this a bit, is it's not fast enough. It doesn't move. It's different. Learning at an older age where you have more of an understanding, maybe. Understanding may be the wrong word, but more of an awareness of progress, both with the parent and the student. Why groups then? Why, ours is called
the Safari Keyboard
Safari
Adventures. Yeah. Similar reasons in a lot of ways. For one thing, it is, educationally speaking, you're going to learn more in a group of similar age students than you are on your own.
Why?
Just because of the way the lessons are organized. They're active lessons. It's much more active learning compared to passive learning. So in general, when you're learning passively, you're being told what to do, you do it. Okay. When it's active learning, that's not really true, and people will argue that, but that's part of it. When you're active
I'm hearing
learning,
them now. It's like,
I already heard it, yes.
Yeah.
If you think, more than Montessori, the learning, I'm going to do it and see how it works. The idea that with the younger groups, they're parented classes, so the parents are actually learning with the kids. So for maybe a lesson, if you hadn't, had the chance to do it when you were a kid, but also that gives them the ability to know how to help them at home. It also gives them the idea of, what's considered average. So it's like, oh, my kid can't do this. Oh, okay, maybe I need to give him a little more support. Or, oh, my kid finds this really easy. Maybe this is one of his areas of giftedness.
Yeah.
You know, that's great. You're not going to see the understanding of that quite as quickly in a one-on-one situation. I mean, you've got your teacher who's going to tell you, but it depends on, you know, your teacher training and all of that.
Yeah.
In the group class, I mean, specifically the Keyboard Adventures Safari, it's based on the piano, and you're learning piano, but that's just one of the instruments that's used. You're singing. You're learning how to do your solfege. So you're doing the ear training. You're playing rhythm instruments so that you're playing together and you're listening to work together. You've got the backtracks that you're working with. So there's a lot more listening involved, as well as, well, we talked last week about, you know, just listening to other people in the classroom.
Yeah.
And that is a skill that is sorely lacking. It is not easy to teach. It's close to impossible to teach to listen to others when you're in a one-on-one. I mean, you listen to your teacher, but
it's
to work together, you can't.
Yeah.
And so you're working your rhythm skills. You're also learning history at the same time in the form of stories. I mean, the Safari is based on different characters, and then all the characters have names that relate to the solfege symbols and the notes on the piano, or not just piano, of course, music is notes, but also different styles of music. So that it's becoming not just, oh, I'm just putting my blinders on, I'm gonna learn how to play piano, I'm gonna learn how to play trumpet. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
It's music education.
So it's more
rounded.
foundational.
It is completely
Yeah.
foundational.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you don't want to play the piano in the long run. It is, and you can argue this, it still is the easiest for a young child to learn music on because it's visual.
Yeah.
I can see the keys and I can identify the patterns. When I'm playing any instrument or singing, I can't do that. I've got, you know, trumpet, C, G, they're the same.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right, yeah. It's a lot more difficult. And when it comes to singing, you haven't even got an instrument. It's all in your head. That's why, you know, for privates, you don't want to start a kid in private voice before they're at least 9. Some teachers won't take them until they're 10, 12, till, you know, the breathing is developed. But there's so much you can do in the group situation if you're in a kid's choir.
So why aren't there more of that? Why aren't there more groups? Why is it the ugly stepchild of music education? And it is.
Yeah.
You know, I would say one reason is, you know, unlike private lessons where, you know, if you find, and I use Mary's evidently our teacher this week, you know, I can drive 30 seconds from my house down the street and Mary will teach my kid in her basement anytime I want. Well, it's convenient.
Yeah.
You know, group lessons, we're asking, you know, in the case of Safari, 5 or 6 families to agree on a day and a time and getting in the car and coming here and doing a lesson at the same time. That in our world is almost impossible. It has gotten so much tougher.
Yeah.
But you also can't do that out of your basement. You can't do it legally out of your basement and make any money. All those people out there listening who are doing it out of your basement,
Check the bylaws.
this is a message for you and for the people who are putting money, the studios that are investing in this, because it is an investment in music education. It's the only way to do it. You can't cram this into a corner and say I've got a group class.
No. If you do, you start to run the risk of teaching them something that sounds like music, but that might not even be the case.
Yeah.
Like music.
Something that sounds like music.
Well, and with the groups, I mean, you need stuff.
Yeah.
As a
Yeah.
teacher,
Well, that's so true.
you
so
need
true.
so much stuff, especially with the little guys. You need all kinds of different instruments. You need all different resources. You need pictures. You need, you know, there's so much stuff.
Yeah.
And that becomes a difficulty because, you know, we'll get calls as like, well, can we have this in home? I suppose, but you're not going to want to pay what it's going to cost.
Yeah.
Because we have to haul everything there and haul it all back. And frankly, your kids are going to be just as interested in the fact that they just finished that on TV and they didn't want to leave that. And, their toys are over there and the dog's barking.
Too many distractions.
It is. It's so distraction. And then you're doing your child a disservice in my mind because you're not setting them up for success.
So who's the wrong student? What is the wrong student for group lessons?
I wouldn't say there's a wrong student, but I would say
Who will be less successful in group lessons?
any student whose parent wants them to become a professional musician and tour the world.
Why?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because if that is your sole goal,
Yeah.
if your sole goal is to make your child a concert pianist, then it's just going to frustrate you. It's not that you're not going to get to that point. It's not that that is not a end goal that is accomplishable through group lessons, but it is going to frustrate parents, I think.
Because your child is not the center of
It's not the
attention of
center
each and every
attention.
lesson?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
a big
Okay.
part of it. The other thing too is when you look at all these successful concert pianists, they will have done private lessons,
Yes.
right? And they probably will have gone about it the correct way, but if you only see that and you try to just imitate that and just throw your kid into that, that's what you're expecting to get them to that point. And so in your mind, you've already made that up. And so when you go to class and you're like, oh, all we did today was play C, we haven't done anything, that's not enough. That's just gonna frustrate you. And like I say, it's not that if you want to become a concert pianist, a professional musician of any type, that starting in group lessons is a bad idea. That's not the case at all. It's in fact probably one of the best places to start. But in terms of who the wrong person to put a kid in that class would be the parent who's expecting their kid to go like that to perfection. That's what I would say.
So what I'm hearing you say is it's actually not the kid.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Well,
It's
at that age, let's be honest.
yeah.
If we're talking about younger kids, the kid's not making the decision.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we have some, little Johnny's 3 and Johnny's not enjoying the class. If Johnny's driving your household at 3, call me in 10 years. We're bound to have a really great conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, you have to trust. Like the time it takes a music educator to get to the point of being able to even get into post-secondary music, just to start on that path, is immense. You actually need a lot of accomplishment. What do you need to teach soccer? Sorry, I'm going to pick on sport, but you need to be the dad with Wednesday nights free who, is probably okay with doing that.
Yep.
And so there's this vast disconnect in our culture around this value. And there's a vast disconnect between the perceived value of group music and private music.
Yeah.
Group music really, I said it, it's like the ugly stepchild.
Well, and
It's like, it's over there, yeah, well, it's not for us. You know what? Group is for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Private is what's not for everyone.
To continue on your sport analogy, everybody starts in a group, and then when you get to a certain point, then you go to the private coaching.
Yeah.
Music shouldn't be any different,
Yeah.
in my opinion. You start in a group, and it doesn't have to be long, but you should at least give a group a try. Play in a band, see what it's like, and then you can discover this is where I want to fit in, or maybe it's not, but that's fine. I think you should at least give it a try at the beginning.
And out of all of that, with sport or with music, you will inevitably end up back in the group.
It's true. Yeah.
It's not that it's a starting point and gone.
No.
It's like in sport, you're going to play on a team, you're going to go, you're going to do individual coaching, but you're probably always going to do sport on a team. Hopefully, logically, unless you're the concert pianist, the one in...
No, even then.
Fill in the
because
blank.
If you're playing a concerto with the orchestra, you better hope you've had years of learning to listen
Yeah.
and follow. Because their music is it's a language. You can't do it by yourself.
Yeah.
Well, you can, but what's the point? If I sit in a room and just talk to myself,
Yeah.
if there's a microphone,
There are
that's a whole other
special
thing.
there are special places for people like us, and it's on this podcast.
But just to come back, I know we're getting a little overtime, but I think some of the biggest difficulty becomes when the parents compare.
Yeah.
And it's, oh, well, my child is 7 and he's in this group class and you're not even doing grade 1 music. And never mind to try and explain what grade 1 is not grade 1.
Yeah.
But his buddy is doing grade 5. Why is my child so far behind? Well, first of all, I say, I'm sorry to hear about your son's friend, because no 7-year-old should ever be doing music that's advanced. They cannot, with their heart, understand it. Prodigies aside, that's a whole different thing. But when you have that comparison, I think as parents, and I have 2 kids, you need to stop comparing.
Yeah.
You need to do what makes your child successful. And that is not the same as another child. This is the problem with our whole standardized education system, which is a whole other discussion we could get into. It only teaches the middle. If you're above it or below it,
Yeah.
this is what you need to be able to do. No, what you need to be able to do is the best of your God-given ability. And that might be here and that might be here. And I don't care as a teacher what it is. I really don't care if you get 98 on your grade 1 exam or if you get 70. I mean, I care if that 70 you had the ability to do better.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if you are doing the best of your ability, isn't that what we want for our kids? Isn't that the most important thing? And when you're in group, you're giving them a foundation that then they can just go zoom, because then all they're doing is, they just have to learn to play the harder music. Well, when you understand the circle of fifths, when you understand why, not, I have to do triads, and that's any instrument, I have to do scales. Any instrument has to do that. When you understand why you do that, all of a sudden, boom, you're way ahead of everybody else. Because you can get to grade 8 piano and not understand why I have to do that.
Yeah.
I did it because mom made me. I'm grade 8, now I quit. And I'm never playing again,
What a waste.
And that is the saddest thing as well.
Yeah, I don't think the measure is there. You talk about comparing, and I think most people don't have the wherewithal to compare. They don't have the wherewithal to say what's good and what's bad.
Yeah.
If you do, that's great. In sport, easy to compare. Ball went in the net, good. Ball didn't go in the net, bad. But in terms of kids, what they can accomplish, look to your teacher. Talk to your teacher. Trust your teacher that they're not just there to cash your check and call it successful music education. That is not successful music education. No. That could be a very successful business. Quantity is not the end game in the arts.
No.
That will never be it. And so, from a group perspective, yes, it's different, but you're going to get a whole different thing. And so this has been good, and it's a good jumping off point to next week. As we kind of go into privates, and again, it's not that privates are bad. Privates are good, but they're an evolution.
Yeah.
So many people come in and want it as a starting point. Well, we'll talk about that next week. If okay, who does that work for? Who does that not work for? How does that work? So, thank you for tuning in, everybody out there, for listening to us on our SoundCloud channel or on YouTube. It's been great to be here again. If you have any comments or questions or ideas that you'd like to hear us discuss, let us know. You can drop us an email at mppodcast. That's MP. I'm going to spell what I just said. MPPODCAST. Wow, it's like education.
Yeah.
At musicandplay.ca. So it's been great to be here again. We'll see you next time. And remember, music makes everything better.